My name is Kay Saunders and I'm the Conservation and Collections Care Manager at the Science Museum. It's my job to ensure that objects in our collection are cared for and can be enjoyed by people now, as well as in the future. Over the last few months, we've had the pleasure of working on an incredibly special object in our collection, a Sokol spacesuit, worn by the first British person to ever go into space, Dr. Helen Sharman. Before the suit can go back on display, we need to ensure it's in good condition. This involves a thorough check, working with colleagues to identify any areas needing treatment. During this time, we also need to consider how it will look in the gallery, what position it will be in, what's needed to support the suit, and how best we can tell the story of the object just by its physical appearance. From the Soviet Union to space and to the Science Museum, the suit is now ready to complete its journey to its new home in our revamped space gallery. But before its installation, we invited Helen to the Science Museum to see her suit up close and to find out a bit more about its history, some of the features and details of the suit, and her incredible journey into space.
How did you become the first British astronaut in space?
So it was towards the end of the Cold War, and President Gorbachev was opening up the Soviet Union to Western countries and thought that the Soviet space program would be an amazing way to do that, to invite other countries, Western countries, to participate. Space mission was announced. I heard that they were looking for applicants and I applied. That's basically how it all started. The first 3 months, I had to learn to understand Russian and speak Russian because all the training was done in the Russian language. So that was probably the hardest part. And then we got to do some of the basic theory stuff, but it was very mathematical. So, the maths, the language of maths is relatively international, so that was very useful. So ballistics, orbital mechanics, navigating by the stars, all that kind of stuff. And then it all got a little bit more practical, so we would learn about the life support systems, including the spacesuit. We'd go into the simulators, emergency training. So what would happen if, for instance, we ended up in the sea instead of on dry land? So all of that, and it was honestly, it was just such an amazing combination. And the Soviets have done this so many times with previous foreign astronauts that it was really just like sort of almost taking off the peg another training program. We slotted right into it.
So what was it like to be in space? What was going through your mind?
The most amazing feeling. As soon as the final engine cuts out, we start to feel weightless. And although we're still strapped into our seats, I could feel that I wasn't anymore sitting back. I wasn't being pushed back into my seat. And we could eventually unstrap and float around in the spacecraft. And that whole idea of feeling weightless, of how my body was feeling, basically it is the most delightful feeling. So natural and relaxing. And you forget what it's like. To sit down, to stand up. Right now, we're standing up, and if we think about it, we can feel the pressure of the floor beneath us. And if you're sitting down, you can feel the pressure of the seat beneath you. But I just completely forgot what it's like to do that. And you don't need it. And that lovely freedom of being able to, you don't have a table or a desk to put things on, so you can let go of something, do what you want to do, and then just pick it up again. And that idea of working in 3 dimensions, the human body is so adaptable. It's so humans particularly are very good at coping with that.
So what was it physically like to wear this suit?
The first thing I'll remember is that it was very hot. It's not the most comfortable thing, but it's not too bad. It's reasonably comfortable to sit inside the seat, which of course that's what it's designed to do. You've got very little places where you can lose heat from. So there is some ventilation, but it's just very, very hot. There are pipes inside that are a bit uncomfortable, and we're all, we're connected up, our breathing instruments over our chest, our ECG monitors, they're all connected into it. So you can't, you've got all these wires and cables inside. But the main thing I remember is just very hot. So hot, actually, we sweat a lot and we have to dry it off afterwards to stop it going mouldy.
So obviously we have this kind of what we call kind of bladder section. Is this opening, is this how you put it on?
Yeah, exactly. So you open it right out, so you get this great big sort of hole in the middle of the spacesuit with this fabric sort of dangling, and then you climb into it through that hole. So your legs go in first, and then imagine you've got then the back of this is sort of flopping down behind you. So then you have to grab onto the helmet part and pull it over, and that's the sort of the most awkward bit, is getting your head just under the sort of the helmet. Once you've got your head into the helmet area, you can have the visor can be open, and then you've got to fasten it up. So this then is the really important bit, because this seals in the air or the oxygen, and this is what means that it can, you can survive. It will save your life if you lose air from the spacecraft itself.
So what are these elements here?
So this is the pipe where the air comes in. The little one is for oxygen, so if we do lose pressure, then we'll have oxygen being piped in rather than air. But the air comes in normally and sort of keeps us a bit cooler. There's some ventilation pipes that go down to our feet, to our arms, to our hands, through our arms, and then just underneath the visor. But this big valve on the front, really important, because this enables us to adjust the pressure inside the spacesuit. So if we have lost air from the spacecraft, then we inflate. We inflate up to about, it's just under 0.4 of an atmosphere, so it's quite tight. It's very nice to breathe, that's fine, but it's really difficult to work in. If you've got to fix some part of your spacecraft while you're doing that, while you're all pressurised, really difficult to move. So what you can do is you can use this valve to decrease the pressure inside your spacesuit. You've got a valve on your arm, and that tells you what the pressure is that you've decreased it to. So you can decrease that down to about 0.26, so sort of almost about half of what you had before. That means it's much easier to move in, but if you live at that pressure for much longer than about 15 minutes, you might get the bends. So it's just enough time for you to fix a bit of your spacecraft, and then you can increase the pressure back up to about just under 0.4 of an atmosphere. It all inflates back again, and you can hopefully survive. And then you've got enough for about a couple of hours, enough oxygen for a couple of hours before you need to, partly you run out of oxygen, but also it's just too hot to survive in for an awful lot longer than that. So yeah, those come together.
There's rather a lot of pockets on here. What would you tend to put in these pockets on your shins?
So those pockets are the most comfortable pockets to use, because of course you've not got much sort of fatty tissue just on your shins. So yes, those pockets will be for the gloves, when you're not actually using the gloves, so to get to the spacecraft, and possibly as well if once you're inside the spacecraft, if you've just got, you're not having a hazardous time, you can wear your spacesuit so you can put the gloves on quickly if necessary, but you can put the gloves in those pockets. And then when I came back from space, I was able to put a whole load of stuff that I wanted to bring back from the space station. Some of it we could pack in the spacecraft, but the smaller items we just put in our pockets, kept them nice and safe.
Do you remember being fitted for the spacesuit?
I was measured, goodness knows how, over 100 different parts of my body. I've never been measured, I think, so many times, so precisely. And yeah, so they all sorts of different fittings. So first of all, the measurements, and then there would be some sort of quick mock-up, and then they would make pretty much the suit that they were hoping. I do remember going for that fitting and feeling really uncomfortable and having to say, look, I really don't think I can wear this for very long. It's digging in here, and so and then there was these alterations were made. Then I went for another fitting where it was all pressurized, and it was amazingly different. So just those slight modifications, was they're so clever, these people. They know exactly, how to adjust it to various points, not necessarily where I wouldn't naturally think necessarily, but and yes, surprisingly, so it's not the most comfortable thing. I'd much rather wear a tracksuit, but there we go. It's this is much safer for space travel. I learnt a lot by being in the Soviet Union, and I learnt a lot about the value of teamwork and what individuals can really achieve together, and that openness and that trust. And then when we look back at Earth from space, I remember, you know, sometimes in the evenings, all three of us would gather around the biggest window we could. We'd just look out and talk about what we could see. And it wasn't, you know, the memories of the things that we owned or the things that we aspired to own and, you know, to save up to buy. Nothing like that. It was about our families, friends, our colleagues. It's those personal relationships. And I think that's what, for me now, has lasted, is that that idea of how inspirational it is to work together with a group of people and do something that letting people be in space, right? And all the other spacecraft that we have up there that you couldn't do on your own. You know, humans, when we work together, we really can achieve some most amazing things. So yeah, that's it's that whole aspect of humanity and what's important in life. Now when I look up at the night sky and see the stars, sometimes the planets, occasionally a spacecraft going over, and of course it's probably the International Space Station because it's biggest thing up there. I do remember, of course I remember, and sometimes I allow myself just to indulge a little bit in how it was up there. But it's also, you know, it's about that amazing, wondrous universe that we have and how much more there is, you know, for every one of us to discover. I think just that whole concept of the origins of us as humans, as animals, is just fascinating. And then again, people are thinking about, I think, what we can do with space increasingly. And I know that's certainly for me, I think absolutely fascinating when we're thinking about now being able to perhaps generate clean energy in space. How can we really make space work for us in a sustainable way? You know, we've got a lot of lessons that we've already learned from our time on Earth, and we can help humanity to continue, but I think in a really, really interesting way in the future.